Angela Levin, you have new information about what went on when Meghan Markle was with these Afghan women. What have you discovered?
Well, what I discovered was the most extraordinary few words that she said that was like a bombshell to me. And that was that she and Harry were having a professional separation. I have no idea what that means, actually. I don't know what an amateur separation is. And what's the game there? Who wants to win? Do you want to leave your partner before they leave you? Do you want them to apologize before anything? I mean, it was just extraordinary professional separation. Have you ever heard of a professional separation?
No, and it's the use of that word, separation, isn't it? Because, Angela, you only have to look through royal history to know how significant that word is. Diana and Charles, the moment the separation word was used, even though they insisted that they were never going to be divorced, it was the beginning of the end.
Yes. Well, it made me sort of think, well, what about the children? Because how is that going to work? If anybody lives in miles and miles away, it's very, very difficult. I know people always sort of write to me now, say, well, they don't have children, you should know by now. But I think you actually have to include little people in this. And it's also the most terrible thing to say to people she had only known twice, and that was about 10 minutes, 10 minutes each. So how she can't actually say that is absolutely astonishing. And actually, because Harry hasn't come back for over 2 months now, she's been out, understandably, to do the things she wants while he's away. So they are floating with nothing at all. Um,
Is it possible, Angela, that she does just mean professionally, just this twin track approach with their work?
Let's pause right there. Did you catch that? Meghan Markle, a woman whose entire brand is built on the illusion of togetherness with Harry, drops this little nugget. Professional separation. Now what does that even mean? Angela Levin nails it when she points out how loaded the term separation is in royal history. Charles and Diana, anyone? It's not a phrase you throw around lightly. And frankly, for a couple that has spent years projecting unity, whether it's holding hands at every opportunity or coordinating their PR strategies, this feels like a major shift. But here's the thing. This isn't just about semantics. It's about control. Meghan knows exactly what she's doing by using a term like this. It plants a seed in the public's mind that there might be trouble in paradise, while keeping things vague enough to avoid accountability. Classic Markle move.
yeah, but I mean, if you like your husband, before they were, as I've said, salt and pepper, you just want to be with them all the time. You hold hands all the time. They give you security all
And they
the time.
worked on the desk next to each other in the office,
Next to
remember?
each other, yes. How can you bear to be that so many days apart? I don't understand that. It makes sense if it's really important for business, or you've got something, that is very serious. But actually, it's obviously not. The things that Harry has chosen are things he's chosen. They're not things he had to do. And ditto Meghan. So I don't think it can actually be anything, that's just come about. This is a deliberate thing that he doesn't want to come back, and I think that because he hasn't come back at all, that it's making a statement, a silent statement. There we are.
Yeah,
How's that?
there's a lot of silent statements going on at the moment.
Yeah.
And also, Angela, a lot of groundwork being prepared to try and make us in some way accept a return to the royal family of Prince Harry. So, Richard Eden, the diary editor of the Daily Mail, has reported that palace sources have made clear to him that Sophie, the Duchess of Edinburgh, and her husband Prince Edward could point the way, he says, for Prince Harry and Meghan Markle to return the royal duty. So this is Richard Eden's reporting. He says courtiers are increasingly convinced that Harry wants to resume his old way of life when he felt he was using his privileged position for making a worthwhile cause. And a source says Harry's heart is not in the TV stuff. Anyone can see that. One courtier told Richard Eden if the Duke and Duchess of Sussex are prepared to give up their private work and return to royal life, they would be welcomed back, certainly as long as King Charles is monarch. What do you make of that?
Well, I like Richard very much. I've known him a very long time, but I don't understand what on earth he's saying. It doesn't make any sense to me. The only thing I can understand, and I'll say this at the first thing, is that sometimes when the Mail has a big problem, that's the newspaper he works for, they say to journalists, take it easy, go down, be careful. And what we have coming up is yet another court case against the Mail that's going to cost £40 million, something ridiculous like that. And they don't want any trouble. I mean, they did this with Meghan's father over the letter that they used.
Yes.
And that was a bit of a problem, but the word was going around that is be nice, be careful. I was told that several times. I'm not very good at sort of making something very soggy if it's not. And I think that's my only thing that I could think of. So I did a bit of research and I thought, well, how can they compare themselves with Edward and Sophie? So I looked.
So Harry's been out of the picture for 2 months? That's a long time, especially for a couple that built their entire post-royal brand on being inseparable. Remember all those joint interviews, Netflix projects, and public appearances? The image they sold was US against the world. But now, it's looking more like her against the world. Meghan's stepping out solo, attending events, and making speeches without Harry by her side. And while she's playing the role of the empowered woman, let's not ignore the optics here. Is this a strategic rebrand for Meghan? Maybe. Or is it a sign that Harry's starting to retreat from the spotlight? Either way, it's hard to ignore the cracks in their united front. And you know what? This raises bigger questions about the long-term sustainability of their partnership, both personal and professional. Angela Levin brings up a crucial point. What about the kids? Archie and Lilibet are still young, and navigating a separation, whether professional or personal, can be incredibly destabilizing for children. Let's be real. If Meghan and Harry are operating on different tracks, how does that work logistically? Are they splitting time between California and wherever Harry happens to be? And more importantly, what kind of example does this set for their children?
They met, Sophie, in 1993, right? They married in 1999, and the royal knockout, which was absolutely awful and made a shame of the whole royal family, was in 1987. So sensible Sophie wouldn't have been there, and they would be very young and inexperienced. Also, Sophie was tripped up by a News of the World person because she started in
the fake shape.
2001. And she was asked about all sorts of roles and she chatted away innocently. And that was terrible. The Queen was furious and she gave up her job as a PR. Now, they've done nothing wrong since. They've been terrific. They're there now all the time looking after what's going on. Sophie was very close to the Queen. And the Queen's not taken in by someone who's sort of smarmy or difficult. You know, she would go to church with her, she would make her laugh. So you can't compare Meghan and Harry to them because they have been vile. They've been so ghastly to the royal family. They attack all of them. And Meghan doesn't want to come to England at all. I don't want to put my foot there, she says. And Harry wants to go. We don't know why. I think it's all aside to it. I think that he wants to get something which he can sell. That's, you know, details about the health of both the king and his sister-in-law, Catherine, and I think he would take full advantage of that. And I don't think that the king, who is still having his cancer treatment, would accept him to come along, because the whole point is that he's calm, everything's calm. And the Queen has made sure that that continues, that there isn't something that might hurt him, because he's vulnerable. He's working hard, he's doing a lot, but you don't want someone who's going to come in and say, I demand, and you've got to still apologise to Meghan, you've got to give me money. We haven't had worked out a settlement. You know, Meghan wants a big house. Nobody really wants Meghan at all. You know, and how can you trust someone so untrustworthy? So William would be furious too. He wants nothing to do with Harry, certainly not while his wife is ill. So what this nonsense is all about, I have no idea. It doesn't make sense on any level, either work-wise or personality-wise or willingness-wise. I don't understand it. So that's my only answer to what it is. And it made me very annoyed.
Here's the kicker. For a couple that has spoken endlessly about family values and protecting their kids from the media, this feels like a contradiction. The kids should be their number one priority, but right now it seems like their public image is taking center stage. Now let's talk about King Charles. There are rumors that he might be open to welcoming Harry and Meghan back into the royal family. But let's be honest, does anyone really see that happening? Think about it. The couple has spent the last few years tearing down the monarchy, accusing the institution of racism, and airing private family grievances to Oprah, Netflix, and whoever else would listen. And now, after all that, they expect a warm welcome back? If I were Charles, I'd tread carefully here. Sure, family is important, but trust has been shattered, and once you let them back in, you risk more of the same. The monarchy is about stability and tradition, two things that Meghan and Harry have consistently undermined. Let's focus on Meghan's recent solo appearances, like her event with Afghan women. On the surface, it looks like she's stepping into a more independent role, which is fine, if it's genuine. But here's my question. Is this about helping others or helping herself? Let's not forget, Meghan has a history of turning every charitable act into a PR moment. Whether it's wearing designer clothes to a food bank or releasing carefully curated photos from a private visit, the focus always seems to shift back to her. And here's where it gets tricky. If this is part of her professional separation from Harry, is she building a brand that's distinctly hers? And if so, what happens to the joint projects they've been working on? A separation might be good for her image, but it could spell disaster for their partnership.
When you don't want to make Andrew annoyed. Do you know the thing that I think was most intellectually dishonest, Angela, about the comparison of Meghan and Harry to Sophie and Edward? Sure, Sophie and Edward made a couple of mistakes, as you say, the fake shake incident, the royal knockout, and also do you remember when Edward sent his film crew, when he had his independent production company, to
1987, for goodness sake.
Exactly. And the other thing is, Angela, though, they were mistakes. They were not on purpose. They didn't go out of their way to publicly slam and attack and undermine and actually take legal action against the royal family. It's just a complete nonsense comparison.
Yes, look at the legal stuff that's happening so not until 2026, but it is against the king.
Yeah.
It's his courts and it is against him. And so they're attacking him. How many times is this going to be? The third, the fourth? I don't know, I've lost count. But how dare he do that and then still think that the king is going to welcome him? I mean, he would be soft. A husband, a father, it's very, very difficult to just throw out your son. You may love him, but you may hate what he's doing and who he's with. And so you've got to be very careful about that. But to write it in his book, to talk about it whenever he can, to be hard done by, and also the whole thing about the money. When they left 2020, the king, then prince, gave them 6 million. But he said, my father cut off all my money straight away. Well, for you and I, 6 million is absolutely amazing. For someone like him, it's probably not so amazing, but it was still a very good goodbye help. So he's attacked everything. Nothing is right. He's never had privilege, even those sausages. William had 5 and he had 4, and that proved that they don't care about him.
But William's thriving. I mean, look at William this week, Angela. Heartthrob Prince is back. He's happy. He's confident. He's a family man. Actually, doesn't it prove that sometimes bitterness and evilness just eats away at you, because Harry looks so miserable now?
Yeah. But he didn't look so miserable when he was away those weeks.
Without Meghan.
Without Meghan.
In Canada. He looked pretty happy in Canada, actually.
But I think those are sort of happy things because he was free for a minute. But actually, when you come home and you go to sleep, you don't feel the same happiness. It's very unhappy, because if they are going to split up, then he's made a terrible mistake, and he knows he will look like an idiot, and he doesn't want that. He's trying to get away from that, but more for him, really. But I think that this sort of piece of writing that Richard did is unacceptable and unbelievable, really.
Angela Levin makes an excellent point about the historical weight of the word separation in royal circles. When Charles and Diana announced their separation, it was the beginning of the end. And while Harry and Meghan might be framing this as a professional split, we all know how these things tend to escalate. Here's the thing. The British monarchy is steeped in tradition, and one of those traditions is that marriages, especially royal ones, are supposed to endure. When they don't, the fallout isn't just personal, it's public. And Harry and Meghan's situation is no exception. The difference, of course, is that Diana had genuine public sympathy. Meghan, on the other hand, has alienated a significant portion of the public, especially in the UK. That makes this separation all the more precarious. So what's next for Harry and Meghan? If this professional separation is real, it could signal the start of a much larger shift. Meghan might be gearing up to fully step into her own spotlight, while Harry retreats to the background, or vice versa. But here's the reality. They've spent years building their brand as a united front. If that crumbles, so does their credibility. And let's not forget the royal family. If King Charles is indeed open to reconciliation, it won't be on their terms. They'll need to earn back trust. A tall order given the damage they've done. Ultimately, this is a story about choices. Harry and Meghan chose to leave the royal family, they chose to air their grievances publicly, and now they're choosing to chart separate paths. Only time will tell if those choices were the right ones. What do you think? Is this professional separation the beginning of the end, or just another PR move? Let me know in the comments below.